Once in a while, I build a set of laminate countertops. I'm guilty. The main workhorse will be the track saw. I'm going to use both sections of track. Trim router with a flattening jig. I'll show you how to make that here in a minute. It's a 2¼ horsepower. Plunge router, drill, raddy tat, 3/8 plug cutter, drill press, miter saw, pin nailer. I'm sure there's something I forgot, but that's probably most of it. Here I'm in Google SketchUp. I've got a rendering of a small conference room at the doctor's office where this project is going to go. It measures about 11 by 14 with a little bit of a hallway. They want to take the big table that's in this room out and put work surfaces against this wall, and this wall. The plan is looking something like this. I had to skip this corner because of this door, which gives access to a valve in the wall. So there's an 8-foot section and then this big L, which is made up of a 9-foot piece, and it's about 13 feet from this butt joint over to the wall. So I'm going to split that roughly in the middle, and I plan on cutting this second half along with some of the trim during the installation. These are 2.5-inch holes I've got sitting about 3/4 of an inch off the backsplash, and they're set about every 28 inches. Those are for cable management, so they can hook up all sorts of different things and all sorts of different places. This project starts off with 5 sheets of 18mm birch plywood, the flattest and cheapest I could find. I split all 5 sheets lengthwise right down the middle on one of the tools I forgot to mention, which left me with 10 pieces. The pieces are going to get glued together to create 4 oversized slabs that I can then trim to size with the track saw. Normally I would just double up the outer edges, but things are going to be a lot easier on this project if I just double everything up. So I've got 3 slabs that are 2 foot by 8 foot and one I've extended about 16 inches. Here's a tip that probably won't help your credit, but it may not hurt it either.
My credit score going down just by looking at your ugly ass.
Now that I have all my slabs trimmed to size, I'm going to start to add the wood to the faces. The procedure begins with a nice straight board. On this project, I'll be using maple. My rips are going to be about a heavy 1/16 taller than the slab itself. That way, when I glue the piece on there, I can split the difference and leave a little bit hanging off the top and bottom. Mostly off the top. I try to flush it up with the bottom, but a little bit hanging off both sides. Then I can run the flattening jig using the trim router, flatten the top, flip it, flatten the bottom, and then just take the tiniest little skosh off the face with the track saw. At that point, I have an extra crispy slab. Here's a little sample. I like to do a little 45 on my outside corners just to soften them up. It's a matter of trial and error and try to get all my cuts to fit perfectly. Sometimes I have to use some extra wood. I don't have enough clamps, so I am going to drill a 3/8 hole every so often, also a pilot hole, and then screw my boards off and cap them with plugs. And my plug cutter burns the outside of the plug, which makes an obvious circle around it. So I have to put my screws on a halfway decent layout because you can definitely see them. There's no footage of me adding the wood to the first 2 sections. So right now I'm using the track saw and I'm like, bzzz. I don't think dust collection ever works when trimming skosh. Now that this slab is cleaned up, I'll flip it over and run the 1/4 inch round over on the bottom. This way I have a nice smooth edge that just rolls right around to the bottom. I think I ended up with a 9-inch layout. This is a 3/8 Forstner bit. Three 30-second pilot holes, followed by 1 1/4 inch pan head screws. Now it's time to take it down, and I mean all the way down, with a 1/2 inch straight cut bit on a 1/4 inch shank. I'm gonna take things down oh so flat. This is the jig. Take it apart real quick. So we got an L and a spear. The L is about 4 by 9.5, and the spear is 14 by 3. This has a 45 cut on the end of it. And this L, it's going to depend on what kind of router you hook in here. It's been a while since I made this, but I'm pretty sure that I bought these special, and I still had to countersink these pretty good ways. There's 2 screws here, and one of them is like a pivot screw, so you can hook one of them in. I think it's this one. And this allows this thing to spin around, and then you have access. The whole time I'm operating this thing, I'm putting all the pressure right here. No pressure goes right here. This hand just guides it, but this is what keeps it on the table, barely touching the plywood. I'll connect these 2 back together so I can skosh them at once. These are sacrificial blocks I use just to keep my round over on course. I got 2 5x12 sheets of laminate for this project from the Home Depot website. It was free delivery, and the price has gone up about 30 bucks a sheet since I bought it. The easiest way that I know to break this stuff down is to use an old blade and the track saw. These little snips work good on shortcuts like this, but that's about it. I wouldn't recommend them for anything else. After I work the outside edge, I'll just walk that puddle across the middle, and I try to have each one of these done in a couple of minutes. I figure both sides need to be done in about 5 minutes. Time flies when you're huffing glue. And this aluminum can trick is the best one because you can just crush the can down after the glue dries. But I did cut the top of the can out, so yeah, you can kind of see it right there. This is not the right wheel. You're supposed to use a wide wheel, so if you use a wheel like this, it works. You just got to keep up with that edge, because if that thing rolls over the edge, it's going to be a bad day. Same router, same bit, just got it in the table. Oops. Yeah. My plan was pretty good. It was the execution that was off. I was intending on a joint like this to avoid a miter, but I was supposed to connect these back together before running the roundover in the corner. Now I got to cut this end of this countertop off and cope this so that disappears. Here's a little trick. Who doesn't love a good mistake? The trick here for drilling these holes was to drill from the top, and as soon as the pilot hole came through the bottom, I could flip it over and then just cut the first couple layers of the bottom and then flip it back over and come all the way through. Otherwise, you might get one of these comets, or even worse yet, you get one of these. The double flip technique. Now I'm going to run some slots for my draw bolts. I'll use a 1/2 inch straight cut bit on a plunge router. I dropped out of countertop school. All you gotta do is convince the guy. Just convince the guy. Circles, Daniel son.